Since the start of the Neighbourhood Watch program 3 years ago, local police have hailed the scheme a huge success. Break, enter and stealing offences have dropped as would-be offenders stay well clear of houses with special stickers. Now the program is ready to expand. Over the next few months, police will be calling on youth fellowships and social groups to keep their eyes and ears open.
We're putting it out to each Neighbourhood Watch group so that the Neighbourhood Watch youth group can then identify problems existing in their areas, in the areas of vandalism, graffiti, shop stealing, juvenile crime or unsocial behaviour in their areas. And then we want them then to get the message across to their peers that this isn't the right thing to do.
Helping to get the youth encouragement program off the ground will be young officers like Constables Vicky Harrigan and Peter Cooper. According to Sergeant Gary Collis from Police Community Relations, part of the program is aimed at changing some old attitudes.
Do you think some young people may feel that they'd be dobbing in on their friends?
No, we don't ask them to dob in. That's an alternative they can have. They can do it if they wish to. What we want to do is try to get them to convince their friends that underage drinking isn't good, that shop stealing has got a very short future, and that antisocial behaviour is not acceptable to them. So it'll just spread the word out amongst the group in the area, we hope.
Young people of the region will become crime watchers to help launch a new scheme. Local police are asking youth to keep their eyes and ears open as the Neighbourhood Watch program expands.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
The bushland was originally set aside for the proposed Wollstonecroft power station. Now the Wyong development plan lists the land for subdivision. Residents say this opens the way to desecration of a natural heritage area home to a number of endangered plants and animals. According to protester Anne-Marie Kelly, there is room for population expansion without threatening this last refuge.
There's land in the area that's zoned for development but hasn't yet been built on. There's also a section of land that's been divided and developed for 5-acre hobby farms that is at the moment has not been sold.
Residents have protested to their local member, local government, and they're now compiling a petition calling for the plan to be dropped. The land, presently owned by Elcom and Coal and Allied, to be donated to the neighbouring Parks and Wildlife State Recreation Area. Residents are also concerned that the draft environmental plan overlooks vital areas of study.
Well, there's been no environmental impact study done on the area, even though they have put up a rezoning proposal. There's also been no human services study done, which means that there's no infrastructure for population growth in the area.
There were plenty of thrills and spills in the 6th race of the 420 National Championships. Despite the strong northeasterly of up to 25 to 30 knots, the start was made without a recall, a feature of so many of the previous races. The first work was a fast leg in the stiff breeze, but it was really spinnaker work that sorted out the competitors. Many capsized after rounding the second mark. Spinnakers that had remained under control on the run just refused to behave on the blustery reach. And many crews found themselves floundering, losing valuable time as they tussled, trying to right their boats. German sailor Christian Hulme, who's been leading overall, only managed 9th place today, a result that will set him back, probably to number 2 overall. 2 Australian competitors did extremely well. Paul Eldred from Western Australia came in 2nd, while Robert White was 3rd. Overall, it was good heavy weather sailing that won the day for all the leading competitors.
During the past year, Shockwave Connection became a popular night spot for the 13 to 18-year-olds. With the DJ playing the latest hits, there were tasty treats and non-alcoholic delights from the bars. But over the past few months, Shockwave's popularity has declined. Patrons will now have to follow the travelling entertainment show in the suburbs.
The reasons are basically the location of Shockwave being down the west end of town is a small problem, but also Shockwave became an excuse for a lot of children and kids to go into town and go to other places rather than Shockwave itself. And that's not the image we're trying to create. We are offering a service and we're going to get it back out to those kids.
The group, which established Shockwave Connection in February last year, says the night spot has never been a profit-making venture, though a lack of patrons has caused some problems. Marketing manager Alan Dodd says the corporation has provided a community service for the region's youth, and this will continue.
We're going to operate on a fortnightly basis in different suburbs. We advertise weekly in local press. We'll be writing to the kids. They're on our mailing list as they're all Shockwave members. And we'll also be involved with a major radio station who will keep them informed where the next dance is.
And is Shockwave still going to be the place to be for young kids?
We hope so. We're going to try and create an environment out there by taking out video disco, DJs, the proper security that we have established. The same standards that applied at Shockwave we hope to recreate in all those halls.
Great.
What can you see and when did you first notice?
The Civic Centre in Hunter Street, Newcastle in 1929 and then in 1986 is one of 140 comparisons which make up century prints past and present. The exhibition was inspired when photographer Torres acquired an album of photographs from the turn of the century. Mrs. Doyle set out to match these with current day shots taken in precisely the same position, and last night's opening was the culmination of 2.5 years of work.
Well, I've been to places where people wouldn't normally be able to go, and everyone's been marvellous. People have invited me in and to take the photos. They've private homes and tops of buildings, everything.
To make the comparisons as telling as possible, Mrs. Doyle chose to develop the prints using the sepia tone method, a device which she says also captures something of the mood of the early photographs.
The old photos had a charm, whereas the modern day architecture is so cold and impersonal. Well, there's one here, Oxford Street, and it also shows the change in dress and lifestyle. It's the buildings have changed. They've altered the old building to look modern and taken off. Had an onion dome that has been removed. It lacks the warmth of the old photos.
There are two types of convertibles on the road. The manufactured vehicles like this Nissan Exa selling for more than $27,000, or the modified conversions custom made in a workshop. Wonderbug Conversions at Belmont specialises in mechanical facelifts. Depending on the type of vehicle, a standard conversion may take up to 8 weeks to complete and cost around $5,000. Each vehicle comes with its own registration papers that comply with strict Department of Main Road safety regulations.
There's a lot that are done perhaps, aren't as safe as they should be, but that's why we feel a lot happier having engineers' reports on every vehicle that's done, because each one's individually tested. But we have a full cross-brace chassis underneath the vehicle, and that gives full reinforcing to the chassis. Then we also weld sections within the sill panels, inside the quarter panels, and then generally we join the quarter panels together with the roll bar as well. Now this replaces...
Paul Forrington has just installed a $60,000 baking oven. The high-tech unit reaches temperatures of up to 100 degrees Celsius. This finishes a new paint job with flawless results, allowing for detailed touch-up work. According to car dealers, the popularity of manufactured convertibles can wax and wane, but it seems conversions are a labour of love.
We started doing them about 3 years ago now, and it's been picking up and up and up. Volkswagens we're always very flat out with, but what's happened now is we're extending the business to a much wider range of vehicle, and we're doing a lot of different styles. We're currently doing a VL Commodore that we're doing into a convertible with a fiberglass hardtop. That, again, that's going to be cost related because they're going to be a lot more expensive. They could be looking at around $15,000 for that sort of conversion.
From the air today, the Tukli Golf Course had more than its usual number of water traps after receiving 200 millimetres of rain over the weekend. All up, 200 young golfers aged between 10 and 17 took part, coming from as far away as Tweed Heads in the north to Henty in the southwest of the state. The soggy conditions made the course play longer, although when defending champion Wayne Stewart of Toronto hits a drive 280 metres, you wouldn't think so. The tall 17-year-old finished runner-up today after firing a 1 over par 73. Winner was another 17-year-old, Darren Griffin of Waratah. He proved too consistent with a par round of 72, although he nearly lost it on the last hole. He was 2 under when disaster struck with a double bogey, but clung on to win the title by just the 1 shot.
Hailed as the longest birthday party ever staged, the festivities stretched 4 kilometres around Newcastle's picturesque harbour foreshore. Helping to get the bicentennial bash underway was the Lord Mayor and Lady Mayoress, who sliced the first piece of a huge birthday cake, soon to take honours in the Guinness Book of Records. Measuring 7 metres, the Dieter's Delight was baked by staff at the Royal Newcastle Hospital, with all proceeds from today's sales to help purchase new equipment. Music from all eras and lands provided free entertainment for the thousands who joined in the party spirit. Aboriginals who set up camp on the Shortland lawn continued to hold their peaceful protest against the celebration of a nation, marking 200 years of white settlement, even though some forgot their history lessons.
What's our bicentenary mean?
I don't know. When 200 years since the first week came to Australia.
Today was also one of reunions, as clans gathered from far and near, some making a special trip for the occasion. For some, it was a case of finding long-lost relatives, including the Smiths. And to mark the occasion, a photo with a cast of hundreds was captured for the album. By early afternoon, the grey clouds moved in as the southerly change arrived, and it wasn't long before the longest party was cut short. But not before the Smiths of the region gave a cheer for this, our bicentennial year.
Story on how people celebrated Australia Day in Newcastle. For many, the day got underway with an ecumenical service in Christchurch Cathedral. Then a major highlight was a colonial picnic in King Edward Park.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Australia Day got off to an early start with a special ecumenical service in Christchurch Cathedral. It was a time for a broad cross-section of the Newcastle community, including local politicians, families, girl guides and brownies, to be thankful. A couple of the smaller members of the congregation joined in with gusto, while others found the service all a bit much. Later in the day, many people gathered in King Edward Park for an Australia Day colonial picnic. Some found themselves in chains behind bars, a graphic reminder of how our ancestors must have felt. There was a full lineup of entertainment, including a display by a curious group calling itself the Society for Creative Anachronism. They specialise in medieval studies, including music, dance, costume and heraldry. They entertained the audience with a display of chivalric combat. Back at Western Suburbs Hospital, the first Newcastle Australia Day baby, Michael Mark Tommen, was still coming to terms with the world. He was born at 12:15 this morning and weighed in at 3,320 grams. He's the third child for Sonia and Renee Tommen of Ellibana. Later in the afternoon, the action was at the Broadmeadow Racecourse. The meeting was billed as one of the most exciting race days in the Newcastle Jockey Club's history. It was the only race meeting in New South Wales today and had 10 local events, including the feature event, the $10,000 Bicentennial Cup.
Police were called to a house at the Aberdare Extended Colliery late yesterday after the discovery of the arm. 16-year-old Daniela Eddy had followed the family dog outside after noticing a foul odour. The German Shepherd, tending to her litter of newborn pups underneath the Eddy's house, led the girl to the human remains of a lower arm, which the dog had been chewing. A gold signet ring with a black onyx stone was found on one of the fingers. Police were forced to wait until daybreak before a search could begin.
Police say the gruesome discovery was made shortly after the dog squad was called in early this morning. Just a short distance from the Eddy's house, the badly mauled remains were found in a gully.
The scientific squad and Cessnock detectives gathered evidence to help piece together the man's identity. Police say the face and body were badly decomposed. It's believed the dog mauled most of the remains. A number of empty liquor bottles were found nearby. Today, the Eddy family, living in a colliery-owned house, had taken refuge elsewhere, leaving the dog unleashed to guard her pups. The body was taken to Newcastle. Late this afternoon, the coroner had positively identified it as that of 37-year-old Christopher Green, a former inmate of Cessnock Jail. He was released only a few weeks ago. The cause of his death is still unknown.
A large crowd attended the opening of the exhibition, which features sculpture, paintings, fabrics, pastels and illustrations. The artists displaying their works are Anne Pont, Anne Robinson, Sheridan Robinson and Colin Scott. All have trained in Newcastle, and it's their first major exhibition. Colin Scott is from Belfast in Ireland and is now based in Newcastle. His work reflects a protest against the acceptance of violence and destruction. Anne Pont says her sculptures are associated with emotional release, while Anne Robinson's pastels are concerned with images and emotions. Sheridan Robinson uses her works to reflect the beauty of nature, in contrast with what she says is the ugliness of the man-made world. The artworks will be on display at the Contemporary Gallery in Wood Street until February the 28th.